何を分かるって言うんだよ!
Emotions ran heavy in episode 22 as Squad 13 returned from the battle with their newfound freedom, only to be welcomed to a harsh reality they were never prepared for. As seen in the episode, the adults left them with a damaged world lacking in resources. They attempt to grow food and plan for the future, but are hit with hardships at every turn. With their plants dying, Kokoro finding out she's pregnant, and Hiro desperately trying to find a way to save 02, the group is left struggling to survive. This is why we get the quote at the start of the episode. The river represents the world, and the world is ever changing, so no matter what we do, it'll never return to what it once was. All we can do is accept that. Aside from setting up the theme of the episode, this quote serves another purpose, which is to show us how much Squad 13 looks to Hiro for answers. First we hear Goro saying it, and then later Ichigo brings it up in her conversation with him. Both of them attribute Hiro as being the person who taught it to them. For this saying to stay with them for this long shows just how much influence Hiro has had on their lives. We can even see this with Mitsuru, who approaches Hiro for answers, but Hiro replies with,
わからないよ、そんなの。どうしたらいいのか。何が正しいのかなんて、どうやったらわかるんだよ。
Right now, Hiro isn't able to lead them, and for the first time in their lives, they're now in charge of making a decision for themselves. On top of the weight of a dying world already being thrust onto their shoulders, they're now stuck feeling the weight of their freedom. Ironically, the one who feels this weight the most is also the most easygoing member of the group, Goro. The reason it affects Goro so deeply is because he sees the hardship the others are going through and he feels the urge to do something, but he doesn't know what to do. Goro is a character who has always been the most level-headed of the group and has always been attuned to the needs of the others. These qualities he possesses have always made him more suited to have been the leader of Squad 13 than Ichigo. However, their society valued numbers over people, and that's why Ichigo was chosen, because she was the second best pilot. This makes sense because Verm never cared about the well-being of the children, only in their ability to be powerful tools. But now that the world is opened, it's about survival and who is actually the most fit to keep these characters together and alive. Goro knows that he has to step up, but he doesn't know if he can actually handle it. Since childhood, he's already grown accustomed to sidelining himself in favor of letting Hiro take center stage. That's also why he's been such a reliable support until now. But with Hiro being absent, the weight completely falls on Goro's shoulders, and we can see his mounting frustration throughout the episode. Seeing the girl he loves collapsing from overwork pushes Goro to reach out to Hiro to find some sort of solution, but Hiro barely even looks at him. This is what eventually leads to this scene.
待てよ。なんでだよ。
This scene serves as a nice callback to the confrontation between 02 and Ichigo in episode 14. This confrontation even starts with the same framing, with Goro's arm extending to grab Hiro's shoulder and violently turning his body around to face him. It carries the same level of emotion, however, different feelings are being conveyed in this one. That's why the immediate next shot is a long shot rather than close-ups of the characters' faces. With episode 14, the close-ups were needed because we needed to see Ichigo and 02's emotional states. Here, the long shot is trying to communicate distance. These are two friends who do not understand where each other is coming from. The distance is also further emphasized by the similar placement of the characters. Hiro is on the other side of the hallway with the rest of the squad looking on from behind Goro. While with 02, this placement made her seem more like an outsider to the group, here it serves to make Hiro seem like a friend that's getting farther away from them. This is cemented by how the squad reacts to Hiro's glowing blue horns. With 02, her horns and eyes glowing conveyed her threatening nature. However, that was before she was accepted into the group. Here it conveys Hiro's resolve to be with her. It shows how far he's come and how much farther he's willing to go. However, similar to the confrontation in episode 14, Hiro's responses only breed more misunderstanding, because they don't seem to account for the group's feelings. It's only about his own. This causes the confrontation to escalate and to end in a similar fashion, with a rejection of the person that's being confronted. In the following scene, when Ichigo thanks Goro for standing up for the group, Goro says,
みんなの気持ちなんて嘘だ。俺なんだ。選んだはずのこの世界を怖がってるのは。
After all the times Goro supported Hiro, the one time he needed him, Hiro turned his back on him, leaving him all alone to deal with the hardships himself. This new world is uncharted territory, and freedom can be scary, because you have to think for yourself to pave your own path. But what is the right path? Witnessing Hiro's clear resolve lingers with the group and unsettles them as they ponder about their own fate. The real reason the group is struggling is because they were thrust into freedom without having a chance to get to know about themselves and their desires. They chose a world without knowing what they wanted. However, the difference with Hiro is that he had already found his answer, but he lost the most essential part of it, 02. And that's why he's not feeling the weight of what the group is feeling. His mind is elsewhere. But then it becomes clear to Hiro what he needs to do when he remembers the Klaxazor princess's words.
滅びを受け入れるか、お前たちが決めるがよい。
Unfortunately, his answer doesn't apply to everyone else. As Ikuno puts it,
それぞれよ、そんなもの。
and so the rest of the squad needs to find their own reason to fight, so they won't just be throwing their lives away, but instead fighting to live. The underlying issue is that they don't have role models, they have no one to turn to. The adults that came before them chose immortality, but in doing so, they traded in the meaning of life. When death no longer hangs over you, every day becomes the same, life becomes stagnant, and that's the end of progress and new ideas, because the purpose of life is to pass on your journey to the next generation, so they can build on what you started and become better than what came before. However, for Squad 13, they weren't given a solid foundation. The adults failed them, but in spite of that, we see characters in this episode learning to take steps to move forward. When the children are faced with this question, what do I desire? 3 characters in particular choose to answer this question with what's most important to them, the desire to protect. Kokoro makes a decision to keep her unborn child, Nana stands up and embraces the mother role for the sake of the remaining children, and Hiro makes the decision to do everything he can to get 02 back. As for the rest of the squad, they're left with a choice, either stay behind and return to the comfort of the birdcage, or continue to fly higher than they've ever gone before to test the limits of their will. Even though they haven't quite found the answer to the question of their desires, they decide to fly with Hiro to space because they've realized that in order to find their own paths, they first need to fight in order for their lives to truly begin. This is why I believe this last arc is about the squad learning to communicate with themselves. Life is a river. You either let yourself get swallowed by its flow and become a victim of circumstance, or you learn to adapt and navigate its currents, because that is to survive. Not all of us have the luxury of having parents or people to guide us or even mentor us. We're born without a choice in the matter, but that doesn't stop us from taking the reins on our lives. It's not easy, and it'll never be. But we either struggle for the freedom to make our own path, or someone else will decide it for us. Finding answers is tough, but that's what it means to be human, to wrestle with fate and with ourselves, to try to do everything in our power to hold on to those moments that mean so much to us, and to create a life that's worth fighting for, because that's what makes us beautiful. And that concludes the 2-part analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can check it out right up here. And if you enjoyed this video, let us know by smashing that like button. If you'd like to stay up to date with all of our latest content, hit that subscribe button, and once you do, ring the little bell next to it so you can be informed of when our next video goes up. And if you'd like to see me cover the last 2 episodes of Darling the Franxx, let us know in the comments below. Cause after all, what do we know? We're just nerds.